I feel that Trump's election victory was, in many ways, a huge nationwide rejection of identity politics. Tens of millions of voters were like, I'm not going to vote according to how the liberal mainstream media propaganda machine tells me to vote based on my identity. Over the last 10 years, the left has put so much resource into dividing everybody into identity groups, labeling us all, and telling us how we should think and behave. And I think American voters were fed up of this. We all remember that incredibly cringy moment when Biden said, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Kamala's campaign revolved so much around her supposed blackness. We all knew she washed her collard greens in the tub, and quite a few conservative comedians built a huge audience simply from imitating her appalling accent. And yet somehow this went right over the top of Democrats' heads. They even decided to introduce, for the first time in history, the concept of black women twerking on stage for votes. And while it did impress some voters, many more actually found it insulting. We've all heard that horribly racist expression, tap dance for whitey, which anti-racists use when they're attacking people of color for not behaving in the way they're supposed to, not staying in their lane of thought. Well, they now prove that tap dancing for whitey is totally passé because we now twerk for their support. And these are the same people who thought it was acceptable to call people of color Uncle Tom if they didn't think or behave in the way that they were supposed to for their skin color. I've even been called that myself as an Oriental man for not being a boba lib and talking about how I don't personally feel oppressed. Yeah, I actually feel equal to white people. The horror. But then they came up with another term for us lots, white adjacent, because we successful Orientals shared the same white supremacist ideals as white people, so we didn't count anymore. And any East Asians who still wanted to belong to the people of color POC club had to double down on their white hating boba liberalism. And that included hating people like me, who didn't play along with this bullshit. Oh, and as a bi man, I was then slapped with the label LGBT, which is now 2S LGBTQIA+, I believe. And any members of this huge new group who didn't think or behave according to our prescribed letters were cast out as well and called traitors to our community. And then we had Barack Obama telling black men that they were misogynists if they didn't vote for Kamala. If you didn't think she made an ideal president, it had to be for no other reason than the fact that she was a woman. Why did so many of these men not listen? Perhaps some of them remembered Malcolm X warning us to beware of white liberal saviors because it's a dangerous disguise. So a big part of the reason why the vote swung in Trump's favor were all the people in these identity groups who didn't follow their orders. Some of us don't behave in the way we're ascribed according to our skin color, because that is racism. The same goes for women and sexism and gays and homophobia. But the biggest shocker of all turned out to be those Latino men. What happened? Had they all been radicalized? Whatever it is, they're now kicked out of the club too. They used to be considered POCs, but not anymore. In fact, the liberal so-called journalists are now saying that Latino men are just as racist as white men. Yeah, they actually had the audacity to commit to print their new belief that Latino men are just as racist as white men and they hate black people too. How low could they stoop in this hate game before admitting defeat? Do they not realize that Latino immigrants who went through the appropriate channels to become American do not feel an automatic kinship with illegals just because of their skin color? Or perhaps some of them didn't like being referred to as Latinx, the new leftist non-gendered version of Latino. I do hope the Democrats learn a valuable lesson from this, that attacking people is not the way to win support. They might learn this once they stop attacking people.